Welcome back to Best Asian Horror Movies. I'm your host Blinky, and today we're going to be exploring A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, an Iranian black and white vampire western horror film. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're also going to be discussing the strict censorship in Iran and how it has forced many movies to be made in secret, as well as directors that have been persecuted under the country's strict Islamic laws. At the end of the video, we're going to give the film our own rating based on story, atmosphere, and unholy terror. Before we begin, please like and subscribe. Thanks! 2014's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, directed by Ana Lily Amirpour, stands as an evocative and genre-defying piece of cinema. Set in the fictional Iranian town of Bad City, the film tells a story of a lone female vampire who walks the street at night, punishing men who prey on women. While the film blends elements of westerns, horror, and feminist themes, its true significance lies in how it engages with larger cultural issues, particularly the stifling effects of censorship in Iran. Though the film was created by an Iranian-American director and set in a fictional Iranian setting, the explicit nature of its content would make such a film impossible to be made or screened in Iran. The film speaks to the need for artistic expression in the face of authoritarianism and the lengths to which filmmakers go to convey their stories. At its core, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night tells the story of a lone vampire who punishes men who exploit or harm women. The film's unnamed protagonist, played by Sheila Vand, is a mysterious and solitary figure, draped in a black chador, a traditional Islamic veil. Unlike typical depictions of vampires as creatures of predation, this vampire becomes a figure of vengeance. Her actions disrupt the status quo, suggesting a social commentary on the exploitation of women in Iran's patriarchal society. While she is the titular character, she is by no means a protagonist, but rather an anti-hero or vigilante. In other words, she is Iranian female vampire Batman. The theme of female empowerment is underscored by the film's cinematic style. The minimalist black and white aesthetic evokes a sense of isolation and alienation. Bad City is a bleak urban environment filled with marginalized individuals. The vampire, much like the other residents of the city, is a social outcast. She moves in the dark, symbolizing not only the literal nocturnal world she inhabits, but also the metaphorical darkness of social inequality and oppression. Yep, Iranian female vampire Batman.
Where were the other drugs going?
The relationship between the vampire and Arash, a young man in the city, further explores themes of vulnerability and connection. Arash, who is forced to care for his abusive, drug-addicted father, is drawn to the vampire, forming a bond that transcends the typical predator-prey dynamic. Through their bond, the film suggests that even in an oppressive society, connections between marginalized people are possible, offering hope for both personal and societal transformation. Most importantly, the film features an absolutely gorgeous cat named Masuka. I mean, just look how cute he is. Who's a good kitty? In Iran, censorship is a powerful force that shapes the landscape of film and television. The Islamic Republic has long imposed strict controls on what can be shown in the media, with content being subject to government scrutiny and censorship. These regulations stem from a mixture of religious conservatism and political control, with the goal of maintaining the ideological purity of the country's cultural output. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night would be an unthinkable project in Iran, not only because it contains supernatural horror, but because it tackles themes of female autonomy and vengeance in ways that directly challenge the patriarchal social norms. The film's violence, sexual undertones, and depiction of a woman in a dominant role would be forbidden, as these themes do not align with the regime's strict moral and political guidelines. Now, while there have been several notable Iranian horror films, including Under the Shadow and Skin, none of these were actually filmed or released in Iran, for obvious reasons. While the film was directed by and stars an all-Iranian cast, and the dialogue is in Persian, the movie itself was made in California. Despite the ludicrous levels of censorship in Iran, Iranian filmmakers continue to create their art, sometimes risking their freedom and even their lives. A notable example is Jafar Panahi, one of Iran's most renowned directors, whose films have consistently critiqued the country's social and political environment. Panahi's works, such as The Circle and Offside, explore issues such as women's rights, the lack of freedom, and the struggles faced by ordinary Iranians under an authoritarian regime. In 2010, Panahi was arrested and sentenced to 6 years in prison for making anti-government propaganda. He was also banned from directing films for 20 years. However, Panahi continued to create films in secret, including This Is Not a Film, which was shot while he was under house arrest, and Taxi, which was smuggled out of Iran and shown internationally. Another prominent Iranian director, Mohammad Rasuluf, has similarly faced government persecution. Rasuluf is known for his critical films that examine the authoritarian nature of the Iranian state. His 2011 film Goodbye depicts the struggles of a woman who wants to leave Iran but is stopped by the government. Rasuluf was arrested in 2017 and sentenced to 1 year in prison for making propaganda against the system. After the release of his film A Man of Integrity, which tackled corruption in Iranian society. Despite these challenges, Rasuluf continues to create work that pushes against the boundaries of what is permitted in Iran. The plight of these filmmakers highlights the intersection of arts and politics in the Islamic Republic. Censorship and repression are tools the government uses to maintain control over the narrative, but these filmmakers refuse to be silenced. Through their films, they expose the cracks in the regime's carefully constructed image and show the world the true complexities of life in Iran. Despite the difficulties filmmakers face at home, Iranian cinema has gained international recognition. Films like A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night have found audiences in the West, often thanks to the efforts of filmmakers like Amirpour, whose Iranian background informs her work, but whose career is not constrained by the same censorship laws. Amirpour, who was born in Iran but raised in the United States of America, was able to create a film that explores Iranian culture and society through the lens of horror and feminist themes, all while working outside of the regime's watchful eye. In conclusion, Iranian female vampire Batman, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, serves as a commentary on gender, power, and resistance, themes that resonate deeply in the context of Iranian censorship. The film's narrative, which blends horror and social critique, would be impossible to produce or release within Iran's strict censorship framework. The story of the vampire, who becomes a symbol of both vengeance and empowerment, encapsulates the defiance that many Iranian filmmakers exhibit in the face of censorship. Directors like Jafar and Mohammad Rasuluf have faced persecution and imprisonment for their work, but they persist in creating films that challenge the Iranian regime and expose the realities of life under authoritarianism. The global success of films like A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night speaks to the resilience of filmmakers who continue to push for creative expression, regardless of the oppressive forces they may face. Here at Best Asian Horror Movies, we're going to be rating our films based on 3 criteria: story, atmosphere, and terror, with each category eligible for a maximum of 6 bloody skulls. Now, before I begin, I'll say first of all that the film was a bit too slow-paced and artsy for me. I'm also not a huge fan of vampire movies, but it is very well made, and I'm really glad that I watched it. A simple but solid story here. Iranian female vampire Batman and Arash had a happy ending, escaping Bad City with an absolutely adorable cat. What more could you ask for? Arash was the true protagonist of the film, while the girl was more of an anti-hero / vigilante, and there were some very entertaining scenes watching her stalk her prey, so I'm gonna give it 5 bloody skulls. I loved the black and white aesthetic here. The world building was excellent from the very first scene where Arash is casually walking across an overpass filled with dead bodies while holding an adorable cat in his arms. The industrial feel of Bad City reminded me so much of central New Jersey. Meanwhile, you had 1950s American muscle cars and gaudy Western European techno music in the background. It was such a strange mix, but it worked perfectly. 6 bloody skulls. This movie isn't scary. It's a vibe, it's a trip, it's unique and powerful, but nah, I can only give 1 bloody skull for this. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any movies that you would like me to review, just leave them below in the comments, and catch y'all next time.